What's up guys, this is Arthur for BluffTheSpot, and on my last live play video, you asked me to play some 10NL Zoom on stars. So that's what we're gonna do today. Without further ado, let's get into the action. Alright guys, so you asked me, and here we are, 10NL Zoom. We're about to start a session of 2 tables, and I hope you guys enjoy. If you like this type of format of going through the stakes at PokerStars Zoom tables, let me know in the comments. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let's jump into the action. I like this 2 table format because yeah, we can go through the thought process of the hand pretty well. I'm gonna turn my chips into big blinds just because it's what I'm used to, but this is 10NL, just remember it's 5 cents, 10 cents on the blinds. So here it's very close. If anything, I would prefer to play a little tighter on this stakes, and taking into consideration I'm gonna pay rake if I call here, and this hand is complete trash. I think just folding should be fine, even versus the min raise. It's pretty easy fold with the 9-7 suited. And pretty easy fold with ace-jack offsuit. I mean, just pretty far from the ranges. I'm going to start 3-betting something like ace-jack offsuit here for my ranges. And probably even ace-jack is not going to be 100% of the time. So ace-10, it becomes the folds. That's like recreational player opening, and I think I have a big advantage on him. Opening the 9-8 of hearts on the MP. Getting the blinds to fold. Pretty standard, not much we can talk about so far. And we're gonna have pocket kings on table 1. So this guy's 98.5 big blinds, is very likely to be a recreational player. So I don't mind adding like half a big blind or even 1 big blind as for the 3-bet size to force him to make some mistakes. Yeah, pretty much it. If he is normal regular, I'll probably go 13 or 12.5 as my sizing. On monotone boards out of position, I like to play a strategy that checks a lot. However, there's a variety of players at high stakes that are going to play a different strategy, and there's a variety of players that are going to play the exact same strategy as I do. So just what I would recommend on a spot like this is just study and see what will work best for you. On the turn, I think he's going to have a lot of sets and a lot of smaller flushes, so I do think we can have some value here. I'm going to go for the big sizing, as I believe he's a recreational player. He reopened ace deuce, also a hand that I'm not going to open every time. However, on this table, we have a recreational player on the big blind, and having him, I'm going to go for a half pot on the flop. However, if I'm facing 2 good opponents, I'm very often going to check behind this hand. Going for the 3-bet here with the queen 10 of spades. And then on the turn, I don't see many bad rivers. I mean, there's some bad rivers, but I don't see many bad rivers that really make our hand look ugly facing a bet. So we're going to check back and call a river bet, very likely. Here with 3-bet, I like to go for a simplified strategy, especially at this stage, and go for a full range bet here for small sizing. And I do think we can get some value here with the ace deuce. However, I don't think we can just bomb it to get value from a 10x or a 6x. So I'm going to go for something exploitative like a half pot sizing. And we get snap called, as you can see, by the queen jack of diamonds. Just an easy fold with the queen 10 of spades. We have no backdoors, no pair, no nothing basically. And with the queen 8 offsuit, I mean, this hand is kind of close. I believe people will overfold. This guy's playing 0 hands over 10 hands, so we'll try. Right? I believe this is not 100% an open as well. Such as pocket deuces, if you're seeing solvers, this is probably not going to be 100% an open at cutoff, but I probably will open pocket deuces anytime, even under the gun. Which I don't necessarily recommend for beginners, because if you're beginning and you're starting with very wide ranges, it's very likely you're going to confuse yourself on post flop, which is the main problem. So you might win a little bit more pre-flop because people overfold and stuff like that, but you're gonna confuse a lot yourself on post-flop. So if you're very beginning at the game, I don't recommend playing super wide ranges, even though player pool is gonna play very nitty pre-flop. So some easy folds here and there. So as an example, you can imagine that you're playing a button range of, let's say, 45, 40%. And you see big blind folding to the button around 70%. So if you start opening, you could, in theory, open any two and auto profit against him. But the problem is not here. The problem becomes post flop when your opponent actually calls you, because his range is super strong and your range is super, super wide. So we open here. I mean, on these positions, I don't mind just checking behind. If it was like button versus big blind, I could potentially just see that and try to take it down. On the turn, we have a gut shot, but that's pretty much it. And he's probing. I don't really mind overfolding here, to be fair, on these positions. This might be a call at some other positions, but since we're so tight here, I don't mind overfolding. We open threes. This is a very small 3-bet considering there's a caller. There's a very high chance this guy's going to call behind. I open pretty much because the big blind is playing 17-10 over 82 hands. So we're going to click call here. And very surprised by this guy just snap folding. I mean, he's not even thinking about the game. I mean, anything that you want to flat call, facing a 3-bet for this size and a call, I mean, you definitely want to call. So easy check on the flop, out of position. Here we open. I would like to start this as a check, as it's a somehow connected board already. And I'm out of position. And I'm already going to fold. I mean, this is 2/3. 3-bet pot, we're out of position. There's not a single chance unless we hit the 3 that we win this spot, and we could even be beat already. So I'm going to start betting my ace-8 now, but checking again, there's nothing wrong with it. I, however, at this stakes would recommend just betting any value as much as you can. And we're going to get called. Given his check behind on the flop, call turn, I believe he's not going to have too many strong ace-X's. So if he has an ace, we're probably splitting or something like this. So I'm going to try to get some value against the worst hand with a block bet. As I said, I like to thin value bet. And if he's raising here, I mean, easy fold, right? Like he has 2 pairs, he has flushes, etc. So there's not much we need to think about. Okay, he actually has 2 pairs. And funny, he didn't raise the river. So he kind of saved some money, because if we check to him and he bets, he's probably going to bet a bigger sizing. Therefore, yeah, makes our life a little bit difficult. I'm going to go for a squeeze here with the pocket tens. I'm going to face a 3-bet with my ace-jack suited. Sometimes I'm going to 4-bet, sometimes I'm going to call. This time I decided to go for a 4-bet. Especially out of position, I'll be doing a little bit more 4-bets. We'll take it down, that's nice. And we'll take it down with the squeeze as well. Very important to not click call here very often and try to see a flop. I mean, your hand is strong enough to go for it, and there's a lot of that money in the pot. This is kind of close because this guy's playing 19-14 with 15% open MP. This hand is going to be very close, I believe. I don't mind 3-betting though. Still think we're going to have an advantage post flop and stuff like that. So if he 4-bets, usually an easy decision anyways. This is kind of close too. This guy's opening 3 big blinds. I have no information on him. It would be fine to find a 3-bet here. So that's a little bit of how to work with stats here. Hopefully this hand goes to post flop so we can think a little bit about it. It didn't. But I would look a lot into things like flop check raise, fold to flop c-bet out of position and stuff like that. defend the king queen. We're sometimes gonna 3-bet this hand pre-flop, so it's important that you know that. I have an RNG you see here on the right side of my hands. And whenever it's over 50, I'm gonna 3-bet this hand, and whenever it's under 350, I'm gonna call as I'm 3-betting this hand 50-50. As I said, I'm just gonna try to get value with my strong hands at this stakes and fast play. Out of position monotone boards, as I mentioned, I like to check a lot. I wouldn't mind opening a hand like this with more information on the players behind me. I think we're gonna call once here with the sixes, analyze the turn card, and then we decide if we continue. We're not specifically calling to hit a flush, however the flush helps, but let's say if he starts bombing all the streets, it's very unlikely turning something like no spade into a bluff. Especially at this stakes, I don't think people are going to be that creative here, especially from regulars, maybe a fish is, but regulars not that much. I don't think our hand gets much calls. It actually gets some calls by words like some 2-pair sets and straights. So I'm going to block bet, but checking would be fine as well. There's nothing wrong with it. So checking monotone boards. As my opponent is going for a snap check behind, I think he would take some time to think about it if he had a flush, if he had a set or something like that. So I'm going to start applying some pressure. I'm going to bet turn, and I'm going to bet the river here. Just thinking about the sizing on the river. My blockers are not amazing, but they're also not the worst. I'm going to go with the 3/4. He finds the fold. It's also important to go for like multiple streets of exploits here, because if you just bet turn, I mean, he's going to call with third pair, and there's nothing we can do, right? Like if you don't bet the river, he's never going to fold that. And he's going to check behind, he's going to win. So it's important to not take only one street of exploit there. So I'm going to stab here very aggressively. I think this board is good for the big blind. He's checking to me. I think people are not going to develop good check raising ranges and good check call ranges, which means you can get away with a lot more stabbing in position. And yeah, you basically can do that with any cards there and be profitable. We're going to defend here multi-way with the ace-8 of diamonds, open ace-jack offsuit. And there's the pot size on the turn. Easy fold. That's something we need to consider, right? Like timing tells. Oh, the hand's still playing. All right. So that's something we need to consider, right? Like timing tells and pot size bet. Like when we check the flop all the way down here, he's out of position versus 2 opponents, and then he pot sizes instantly. If I have a 7 here, I'm very likely going to fold, because that's pretty much a sign of strength. I'm going to check behind here. I do think my hand has some sort of showdown value. Plus, I'm playing against 2 opponents. If this guy is more of a tight knit of the player pool, I'm going to be finding some folds here. However, this guy's playing 63-63 over 8 hands. Call 3 bets out of position, in position with offsuit hands and stuff like that. So I think this becomes a call now. It's almost a value hand, to be fair. However, he's calling the small blind. He's betting quite fast. I think we're going to find a fold on the river. I wouldn't mind calling sometimes if I have some more information on him. But we don't have much info for post flop. I'm going to call here min raise, and we have a suited connected hand. However, that might potentially not be a call against these positions. So I'll recommend checking it on some charts or making some study about it as we're on an educational purposes. I think it's completely fine to bring some more spots into the pool. So we're going to call the flop with the flush draw. it's important to keep your frequencies normal in a sense of if we check raise every single flush draw, that's a little bit dangerous, especially because this is a 6 high flush draw, so we could be drawing against a better flush draw at the end of the day, which is dangerous. Here, this is not an open, however, and we don't have a sample on this guy, but however, he has a nit rag stat, so I think it's fine. And here, just folding. I think we're way too low in our range to call. I'm not going to fold against a min 3-bet. If it's essentially the min 3-bet, I'm not folding. If he's like a little bit over, then I'm folding. But I don't fold any 2 cards against that size. It's just too good pot odds. So that's a hand I will definitely call a 3-bet against, but versus this size, I believe we're just going to click the fold button. And we'll say thanks for making my life easier. Also close hand to open under the gun. However, recreational player on the big blind, recreational player on the small blind, unknowns behind. That's the kind of exploits you want to do, right? Like, and then we open 2.2 and the guy goes 9, which is way too large. So if anything against this size, we want to 4-bet a little bit more, fold a lot more, and call less. And if he's a nit, I'm not even going to 4-bet a little bit more. I'm just going to reduce all the frequencies and fold a lot more, which is most often going to be the case here. So Jack 7, it's a close hand versus the button, to be fair. So we're going to check for some stats. This guy, we have only 139 hands, and he's opening the button 33%. And then the small blind also 33%. It seems a little bit low. I believe he's going to be on the tighter side overall. So I'm going to click the fold button here, avoid a little bit of the rake, get a little bit more into the hourly. You can play a variety of strategies on this board. I'm just going to simplify and range bet a lot on these stakes. Pretty much not much action, not many big pots. Last session was like this as well, so hopefully today we have a big pot that we can discuss a little bit. So multi-way pot here. I would play a full range bet strategy here very, very often. Multi-way you have to step down and reduce a little bit of the frequencies as your c-bet success is not going to be that high. I don't mind just going aggressively here as well. And then facing the snap donk bet for pot size on the turn 8 of spades, which makes absolutely no sense. We're going to find a fold. Again, a hand that it's not an open 100% of the time, but I like to open at this stakes, especially. Taking advantage of people being too tight. So here's close with 8-7 hearts. I'm going to be 3-betting this hand around 50% of the time, but given the fact that this guy is going for a bigger size, I'm going to 3-bet a little bit more. Not too much though. He calls, that's a reasonable flop for us. I usually start with half pot sizing on lower than 10x's board. So let's go with it. We'll take it down the flop, that's nice. So turn here with the aces, we see bet the flop, including some checks is fine, but mostly betting, especially at this stakes as I don't want to add too much mixing. On the turn, I don't believe we have an overbet spot here, just pretty much a 3/4 for a variety of reasons. Mainly because the 6 brings some straights to the board and quite a few 2 pairs to my opponent, so it changes a lot of the dynamic, especially for like over pairs that are going to be most of my range. So for example, if the turn is an 8, I'm also not overbetting, but if the turn is a deuce, then I'm overbetting because it doesn't changes the dynamic and the equity of my strong hands, especially. And if I have an overbetting range, then I don't have a 3/4 range probably. And I will simplify with only one sizing. So we see that here ace seven. I believe my bluffs are gonna be hands like ace 10, ace jack, and then like ace 5, ace 4. The medium portion of ace x's is probably just gonna check behind. We'll hit a 7, potentially bluff catch if he does bet. It's a little bit close if we want to value bet or not. Probably not. I'm going to open king 10 offsuit. Again, against the small blind, I'm usually going to play a different strategy than I would play against the big blind. So here I'm not going to go with 1/3 full range strategies. I'm going to go a little bit more polarized. And I used the half pot sizing there. Open the queens, pretty easy. Take it down. Ace 5 suited. Usually a hand we can 3-bet with. We'll take it down as well. As you see, just don't get too much action. I believe when we have strong hands, we just have to be disciplined to make folds when we need to make folds and value bet when we need to value bet. That's pretty much it. And you're basically going to make a lot of money by just pre-flop exploits as well. Tagging recreational players, as you can see, doing a lot of this work. I mean, I wouldn't mind clicking call here sometimes against some very big fish. We have no info on this guy so far. And there's a guy behind, so I'm just gonna click fold. Also, this guy's playing 14-6, so there's a chance this guy has pocket tens here, and that's it. So we would be flipping. It's nice that this guy wins, because it's gonna be easier to make money against him than against the regular. Tagging. You see how many recreational players I'm tagging here. I'm not even tagging like the nits as recreational players, but they should be considered recreational players. What is a recreational player for a 10NL guy is different than for a 2KNL guy. In a sense of probably all the regulars, no, 100% of the regulars here are the fish on a 2NL game, 2KNL game, including me. So, yeah. Anyways, important to tag your opponents. That's the point. Usually starting with the check out of position. With the threes, I don't mind just range betting on any pair board, to be fair. People are not going to check raise enough and still snap overfolds. Both options are fine here. As I say, I'm going to use a very high aggression strategy when people check to me, with value or not. Sometimes 3-betting the fives, sometimes calling. This time I decided to call. He goes for a big size and quite quickly, which is potentially a sizing tell. Still going to click call with his hand. I don't think we can fold. And he's going to usually bet the turn. So he checks on the king. We're going to check behind. And small bet on the river. It seems like he has ace jack all the way down. However, we need to absolutely raise this. I'm going to 3-bet on a high frequency here. However, the RNG is going pretty low, so I'm just going to fold. And I don't know the guy, so that's fine. And as I said, raising, I'm just thinking about the sizing. I think we're going to go small exploitative, even though what we're wrapping is quite strong, due to the fact that I think he doesn't have too many strong hands here, essentially. So I want him to milk him to a call with a jack X or something. So that's a very good spot to bluff, as you can see. He gave us all the tells he didn't had a king, and he just had a jack because see bet the flop, snap check on the turn king, and then river half pot sizing. So the snap check and the half pot sizing got me to think he wasn't too strong. So if I'm bluffing there, I'm probably just gonna overbet river and that's it. Calling the 10-4 clubs, finding a flush around the flop. 21 to begin with. And as I said, I'm gonna go with high aggression on situations where people checked on me. This turn specifically, I'm going with an overbet. We'll take it down. So check, check. We have a 4s here. Queen is not a great turn for my range, as he's going to check behind quite a few queens, like ace queen, queen jack, queen 10, stuff like that. And it's very difficult for my opponent to find check behinds folds here, as he usually going to have some hands like ace 10, 10 X's, gut shots, small pairs, etc. So this is one of the situations I'm actually going to include some checks. Snap check behind turn. So we could turn our hand into a bluff here. I'm going to go for the 2x river bet. And we're going to take the pot down. So king queen offsuit here, sometimes 3-betting, sometimes just going to the muck. And we are going to go for half pot sizing here, probably give it up on turns and rivers. It depends on the run out. Snap call, very bad turn for my range. It's going to check and give up. Snap check behind. Well, it doesn't mean much because the board is very dynamic. So he could check behind a lot of like over pairs, check behind a lot of pairs, which just benefits from this card. So yeah, if there's ever a chance he checks behind here, something like 10 jack offsuits, I mean, that's good for me. And we're gonna start seeding out on the next big blind. We have 2 nice hands to see. Ace is gonna get the pot down. King Jack just the fold versus a squeeze. I thank you very much for watching. If you like this type of format, let me know in the comments. Smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss any of the newest videos we're posting. Let me know down below in the comments which limits you want me to play. From 5NL up to 100NL, we already made 25 and 10NL. So we have 50, 100, and 5. So I see you guys next week. Let me know down below in the comments what do you want to watch. See you later.